Salamander dude, SaiyanSalamander here, and welcome to another seasonal refined theory crafting video. When I started this series, we still never had any seasonal units with a refine, but recently we've had Halloween Naui and Valentine's Hector who have had refines too. But we haven't had any new legendary weapons being given to these seasonal heroes yet, as both seasonal characters so far already wielded a preferred weapon. So with this batch of heroes, they mostly don't have one, apart from Azura, so I'm going to give them a brand new preferred weapon. And of course, I'm going to give all of these new weapons and Azura's old weapons some love too by giving it a refine as well. Originally, all the inheritable weapons on this list gave their user Breath of Life free, and while I've buffed the effect for one unit, I've mostly given everyone else entirely different skills. I usually save the best till last, but let's just hop straight things into things with my favourite of the banner first this time, the festival dancer, Olivia. Olivia is one of my favourite characters from Fire Emblem Awakening, second only to Tiki herself, and I'd really love to plus 10 merch her one day, but it'll probably be a long time until I'm able to, since I think I'm only at plus 1 at the moment. Olivia's new weapon is for Khan's Fan. Instead of giving a unit plus 3 and 1 stat in their weapon like I usually do, I decided to give her C Dual Infantry 4. It's not a skill in the game just yet, but I think these dual skills would be really nice to add to these Gen 1 units, especially Gen 1 dancers like these. If we compare Olivia with a more modern dagger dancer unit like Dorothea, Olivia's got a whopping 17 points lower BST than her. And with this dual skill, there's a bit more evenly matched, with Dorothea only being 4 points ahead of her now instead. That isn't it by far, as she's still got a lot of abilities packed into her weapon. She's effective against infantry and armoured foes, and if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she has a joint drive, attack, and speed, and even neutralises the foe's bonuses to both of these stats. Now this is all in her base weapon. Her refine gives her Pulse Smoke 3, which is a really nice skill since it frees up her C-Spot to run another skill like Times Pulse 3 or Fatal Smoke. I almost gave her both in her refine, but I figured that would be a bit too much. So enough about Olivia. If I keep going, she's going to be broken, so let's move on to talk about her son, the Indigo dancer, Inigo. His new weapon is called Elysian Ring, and like Olivia, I gave Inigo a built-in tier 4 dual skill in his weapon. Since like with Olivia, I think he could really use the stat boost. Inigo was the character decided to boost his old weapon rather than change his weapon completely. Instead of being more like a Breath of Life 4 skill though, it's more like a Mystic Boost 4. It disables skills that calculates damage using the lower stat, and heals the unit and allies within 2 spaces after combat. Then for Inigo's refine, it's kinda like Odd Recovery, except for 2 big differences. The first is that it works on odd and even phases, instead of just on odd numbered turns. And the second is that it works after combat instead of at the start of a turn, so it synergizes better with his weapon. To make things a bit more even though, Inigo doesn't give his allies as much HP as Odd Recovery does, and restores 8 HP instead, making for a total of 15 HP given to allies overall. I think Inigo with this refine makes for a really fantastic dancer, since he can act as a dancer and a healer at the same time, freeing up space to add a damage dealing colourless unit instead of adding a staff unit for support instead. And while the dual skill is built into his weapon, it doesn't really help him stand out in any stat. It just balances him out further, and allows him to work a little bit better compared to newer units that have been just released into the game. Next up on this list, let's talk about the Dark Sky singer Shigure from Fire Emblem Fates. Like the other characters on this banner, his stats are insanely low, and he doesn't really have a standout stat or anything, since they're not min-maxed in any way. They're kinda just low overall. So like usual on this banner, I started things off with a tier 4 dual skill in his base weapon, which I'm calling Grey Wave Score. And due to its name, I tried to reference his mother's Grey Wave skill, making it so infantry and flying allies can move an additional space when he dances either of those units. As for his refine, it's like Wings of Mercy on steroids, since as long as Shigure's ally has less than 100% HP, Shigure can teleport anywhere on the map to them, and convert any penalties on them into bonuses, which is really handy. I think Shigure is still weaker than Legendary Azura overall, as he should be. Legendary Azura is a great legendary unit after all. While the warping effect is really nice, Shigure only gets access to the Grey Waves part of her kit, and not the Prayer Wheel part. Besides, Legendary Azura is probably due a Legendary Hero remix in the future. Probably not for a while though, since there are a lot of Legendary Heroes that got released before her. So I wouldn't expect to see an Azura remix until around this time next year. But while Legendary Azura is probably your better option, I still think Shigure can now be a nice alternative, being unique in his own way and having a different variety of skills due to his movement type. Speaking of Azura, let's move on to her performing arts version. She already has a legendary weapon that grants +3 to all her ally stats when she dances them, but that's incredibly weak compared to all the other weapons on this list. So with her Refine, she gets a major upgrade. I made some big changes to the base effect. So if you want to give her a speed refine, attack refine, or anything like that, her base weapon effect will still change. Now instead of giving a +3 to all her ally stats, her weapon is now the same as Prayer Wheel. So when she sings to an ally, they'll gain a bonus to all of their stats based on the highest bonus that they already have, which combos really well with her Refine effect that grants allies within 2 spaces +7 attack at the start of turn. This means when Azura sings one of their allies that have already received a +7 attack bonus, the ally will receive a +7 boost to all their other stats too, which really comes in handy for them. And of course, I haven't mentioned this yet, but as part of the base weapon upgrades, Azura also gets Green Dual Infantry 4 to boost up her stats some more too, and helps her compete and stand out on her own stage against the other dancers. It would be insane if she could get Grey Waves as a skill at some point too, since it would make her an insane alternative to Legendary Azura. I've always thought that personal skill should be transferable between ults. Like all the Azura getting access to Grey Waves, and all the Alphonse units getting access to Open the Future, and things like that. So if Performing Arts Azura could someday access that skill on top of this insane new weapon refine, she'd be a great green alternative to Legendary Azura. If you wanted to run a different blue unit and have your dancer take up a green slot instead. That's all the characters featured on this banner, so that just about wrapped things up for this video. So I hope you enjoyed it, my dudes. If you did, please drop a like, comment on which refine I theory crafted you liked the best, and subscribe to see more content like this. I've also got a Twitch channel and a Discord server that's linked in the description. So if you want to see me play games like Fire Emblem, Kingdom Hearts, and more live, or you just want to hang out more with the rest of the community, then please check out the link to both in the description. Also, a huge thanks to Jarrett for editing this video. His Twitter and YouTube will also be linked in the description too, so definitely go check him out and drop him a follow too. That's all for now, so again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, my dudes. Until next time, bye!